Hello, everyone, and welcome to Off the Wall. My name is Sol, and I got Josh here with me.
What
And
up?
today we're going to be talking about Holdovers, which is one of the Best Picture nominations for the Oscars this
hmm
year. We're doing this little series where we're going to go through all the Best Picture movies. But first, Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. This movie was nice. I did enjoy it. It's not like a fun ride, but it is very entertaining.
Any other non-spoiler thoughts you have on this movie?
Basically, I thought the way the previews were, you thought that it was going to be kind of fast, quick-witted type of
Mm-hmm.
thing, banter between, and it was much more of a slower pace movie than I was expecting. But this movie was an onion to me. Every scene peeled back more layers of each of these three main characters that they had. I know we'll go over the nominations, and some were best actors, some were best supporting, which I thought all three of them basically carried the movie. This movie seemed to it was going to cover a lot more as far as like the area, and they did go to a lot of places, but it's really just a central core of these three characters and how each they're coming from different situations in their life and them just dealing with the situation that none of them really asked for. But unfortunately, it's like here we are, and
Yeah.
I thought it was well done because that could be a very boring story if it's not done, shot well, written well, acted well.
I agree with you completely about the the stories like onions. Ogres are like onions. You are learning something new each like 5 to 10 minutes. You learn something new in the story, and you're like, oh, that's why they are the way they are. Because every character in the story is pretty much an asshole,
hmm
and you learn why they are an asshole, why they are who they are. Some of the like peripheral characters, they're just assholes to be assholes, but the three main characters, one of the three is I wouldn't categorize as an asshole, but definitely two of the three are.
Yeah.
And uh you learn more about them, you're like, yeah, no, I'd probably be the same way if I were
hmm
you. Going into the nominations, this is nominated for Best Picture, of course, but we also got Best Actor for Paul Giamatti, Best Supporting Actress for Divine Joy Randolph, Best Film Editing, and Best Original Screenplay. Is there anything that you feel that it got snubbed on? Which one do you think has the best chances of winning?
I mean, Alexander Payne, they didn't get Best Director, but this is very stacked. These are the type of movies where they'll win Best Director, but then you watch it and you're like, compared to like Oppenheimer or something like that, which I haven't seen yet. But the spectacle that is Oppenheimer and like all the stuff they had to do and all the things that you had to put together, where this was much more of a tight knit thing. Now it was directed really well because this could easily go off the rails without. That's why the editing was worked so well because this is the type of story. If you don't edit it correctly, it's just a slow burn type of movie. So maybe original score, but it's still and nothing really stuck out to me with the original score. I thought the actors who played Tully, Mr. Tully, as he kept calling him throughout the whole movie, he was really good. As far as like snubs, I guess him, but again, you look at the best supporting actor category, and it's just like, where are you going to put him? At the end of the day, I don't think it's a snub. I just think better performances won out in that situation. So I know it's a long-winded answer because I was just trying to find something, but I thought the people that deserve to get nominated did.
A pretty stacked year when it comes to several of the nominations. I could see possibly the best director. I think there's another snub in best director that was more egregious to me, and we'll get to that when we talk about that movie. Put in the comments below if you can guess what we're talking about. Who do you think has the best chance of winning?
Divine Joy Randolph. Giamatti, the thing is, I've seen kind of that performance from Giamatti before. It's not like it's bad, but that's just kind of like, oh, Paul Giamatti's in it. You go to watch these type of performances because you know he can deliver them. The scenes that I've seen with Cillian Murphy, yes, him and Cillian seem like right now, or Killian Murphy, sorry, those two kind of are the front runners right now. And Giamatti with his, taking his Golden Globe to In and Out and just kind of how he is, being on that, round table and talking about the reason he wanted to be in Planet of the Apes is so he could play an orangutan, like just those type of things right now. He's in the social sphere. They're like, yeah, give it to him because he's very coming off very extremely wholesome right now in this Oscar season. Watch this movie and then you just watch a few scenes with Killian Murphy and how you when you can act that well with your eyes and know exactly how that character is done. I saw that in just a few scenes with Killian. That's like just oof. So it's going to be very tough for Paul to actually pull it off from what I see because there wasn't something. that really stuck out. That's like, man, it's just this was a, but Divine was different.
Yeah,
With what she went through and just
she
her,
gotta win. She has to
she was just
win.
so good. Really, her performance really stuck out the most to me. She was kind of the backbone of the film to me. Every time the other two would push apart from each other, she would reel them back in, while also dealing with most tragic thing compared to the other two. And I looked at the best supporting actress category. It's obviously it's a politic time thing, but that's me. That I will, if she doesn't win, I'll be like, come on. And she's won. She's definitely, most of the time when she's nominated, she's been winning. That would be my pick. I think Killian's gonna end up winning out. Original screenplay, yeah, I could see that possibly winning. Who else is in the original screenplay nomination?
Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Past Lives, May, December, Maestro. So that's where I think it's gonna kill is in original screenplay. I agree with Divine Joy Randolph. I think she should win. I think Paul Giamatti is a dark horse
Mm-hmm. No, he's definitely
because
right there.
I also think it's going to be Cillian Murphy, but I can see Paul Giamatti winning, and I won't be mad at it
No,
because this performance was done really well. He hates rich people, and you can understand why he hates rich
yep.
people when you get closer to the end. I noticed in the beginning just the way that he acts towards these kids that he's teaching because they're rich kids in an academy, and then between Divine Joy Randolph's character, like every time he's with her or someone like of her status who is of his status as well, that he's has a little bit of light, a little spark behind the way he treats them, and then immediately becomes, as I said, this is a movie about assholes,
Mm-hmm.
becomes an asshole when it comes to him just being around another rich person. Any spoiler thoughts that you have about this?
I thought we were gonna spend more time with all of the kids, and it was kind of just like, and then the next thing you know, it's like all of them left, but he couldn't get a hold of his parents, and so you're like, okay, because
His mom is a bitch.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, the Tully character is already doesn't like any of his classmates because he, even though he is coming from a rich family, they don't treat him. They treat him like basically like he doesn't exist. And you kind of find out why, obviously, as you go along, is because his dad went. They really don't explain what his, if it's dementia or what. They really don't explain what it is that he has whatever his mental disorder is, but you just know that he is in a mental hospital. He said he was dead. Then Paul Giamatti started giving him shit, and then Divine Joy pulls him back in. Basically like, hey, because and then you find out there, and then you find out that his mom. The reason his mom was a bitch is because she can't deal with her own situation of every time she looks at her son, she sees her husband, and then it kind of has a trickle down effect, and she just can't mentally get past that. But she still has to raise the child, so she's raising him in the distance, which means basically just throwing basically child support, but not supporting the child.
Yeah,
You just
ignoring him.
yeah, guys, you can't just throw money at stuff and think it's going to work. You have to, have put some TLC with it, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what we learned with him. And then Giamatti's character from the jump, when he answers that door, like when he's talking about Philistines or whatever, he's like doing his research, and he opens the door and he's just like, kind of has the whole man, what do you want? Get off my lawn look.
Right.
And then she gives him cookies, and he was like, okay, it's cookies. Him being a drunkard throughout the whole film threw me off
It was a
because
choice. It was a choice.
it never really alluded to any. It never really went to anything. It just
Mm-hmm.
knew that he was always getting Jim Beam and drinking that, but he was always up early. It never seemed like he had a hangover or anything like that. You never saw him.
Functioning alcoholic,
Yeah, I
definitely.
guess that's what he was. And they were like, oh, why? But you figure out later on the line. But that was one
Mm-hmm.
of the kind of a plot hole where it's like he's drunkard. Cool. Like they maybe used it for him like being passed out, and they snuck around or whatever, like when he was asleep. But most of the time he was
Yeah.
always up before the kid.
One of those where I could understand why he was a drunkard, but they never used that as a plot device
No.
in the movie, other than like anytime he was feeling some type of way, he'd go for the bottle.
All of these three characters, it's kind of like the Shining type thing. Is like they're in a situation that none of them want to be in. So none of them are really happy to be there, but they're just trying to make it just do the 2 weeks that we know of, the 2 weeks, and then just move on. But they have to be in each other's existence. Well, This is back. The reason it's set in the 70s is because you don't have other devices and anything like that. I'm pretty sure that's why they picked the 70s. They don't have any devices or anything to really keep them distracted, so they're just snowed in this small town right outside of Boston. None of the students like the student. None of the teachers and faculty and students like Giamatti's character or Walleye, because at first I'm like, does Paul Giamatti have a lazy eye? No, that's actually part of the character. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, I've seen him. I was like, I swear, but anyway, Divine Joy Randolph's character, through tragedy, she basically has nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So,
Or
and
doesn't want to go anywhere
right, that's
else.
true. She
And
probably just doesn't want to go anywhere else.
yeah, the tragedy is that her son, he's a soldier, so he was killed in battle. And her son was one of those that went to that academy on a scholarship. So, unlike the other students who were there because their parents had money, he was there on scholarship because his mom is the cook for the academy. And he was a very good student, got into college, but mom couldn't afford it. So that's why he joined the military, because he was like, hey, mom, when I come back, they'll pay for my college. That unfortunately is still the case for a lot of kids today. They go into the military because they can't afford to go to school.
Yeah, and she basically just stays there.
Yeah, so
kind of on her own.
she stays there because she has a sister in Boston, and that really tugged at your heartstrings when she's there in Boston with her sister. And that's exactly what she needed. She needed a familial person there with her because she doesn't have her son anymore. So she's staying there and seeing these asshole kids. And she's the one that calls them the asshole
Right.
the most in this movie, like these punk ass kids who say shitty things about her and her cooking, which, I mean, I don't know. Got a black lady cooking for you. It's probably going to be delicious. So these kids' palates are probably not very good.
No. And the little subtlety when she was visiting her sister that I really liked is the husband popping in and looking, and he kind of shakes his head because they've probably been apart for years. Like you could tell exactly what that shake of his head was just showing that they pick up right where they leave off as sisters. Like that little shake and his kind of look just was enough to tell the story that they're very close, and every time they're together, that's their time. Because of that, to catch up. It shows that much of the story, even though the sister's hardly, and the husband, the brother-in-law, is hardly in the movie. But I
don't think he has a line at all.
No, he doesn't have a line. At first, I forgot until because we first walked in and just they hugged and had that, kind of embrace thing because she's unpacking all of her son's. She's kind of going through her son's stuff. I forgot she said even in the line that she was pregnant until they were sitting on the bed. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Her sister was pregnant because I was like, oh, she's giving her sister the baby clothes from her son. Everything with her throughout and her grief. Whenever she would go for the bottle, like that made more sense than Paul Giamatti's character. That's why I think she should definitely win in Best Supporting Actress. Paul Giamatti, the fact that he hates rich people because he was a poor kid himself who got a scholarship to this academy and then ended up going to Harvard, and his roommate steals his dissertation when he turned it in because the kid's parents were donors to the school, and like his last name is on one of the buildings. They went with the kid instead of with Paul Giamatti's character, and therefore he got kicked out of school, is not a college graduate. The only person that knows that is the headmaster at this academy, and that's why he doesn't get paid very well, but he at least has a job at his school. We find out later too that the headmaster was one of his former students too. He's like, he was an asshole when he was a kid and he's an asshole now. So this movie just is chock full of rich assholes.
You, sir, are cancer penis.
Right.
I just like that little subtlety that he did there at the end. Another thing too that makes sense of why he's so big with keeping Barton, right? That's the name of the school. That's why he's so big with keeping with the rules, because he was Harvard had that type of set of standards, and this is the rules. This is what we have to do because this make actual men and not just a bunch of rich assholes. Because he got shunned by Harvard not upholding to their standards, he figures now that he has a seat at the table per se at this academy that he can at least institute and try and fulfill those. Whereas everyone else is like, nah, dog. I was more like they say in Pirates of the Caribbean, more like guidelines.
Yeah.
type of thing. And that's kind of how he kind of, and Tully kind of peels back those layers with him. And you can tell, like, one is he's just in why he drinks and stuff like that, because he's in a situation that he'd rather not be, but at
Hmm.
least it allows him to still do what he likes to do, which is
Yeah.
go through history and write that stuff, and allow him to at least do his work. But he's afraid to take that next step because he doesn't want to get hurt again. Everyone going through is like they're kind of scared to take that next step. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what the movie is in a nutshell, is just getting over and getting through that trauma that affected
Hmm.
them in the past. Whereas one is told that you're not good enough. Like, you could tell through the whole thing, he doesn't like to be around people because he smells like fish. He got shunned by the military because of some other medical reason. And then the one kid is shunned by all of his students because he's smarter than all of them, as you can tell in the class, with the history class that Giamatti's character teaches. But he's afraid to really reach out and get to know him because he feels like he's going to be shunned by everybody. Because he's shunned by his own parents, why would anybody like him? So he's very defensive. But Divine's character, she's afraid. She's going through the hardest grief you could ever do. All three of these characters are kind of doing the same thing, and she's
Yeah.
getting that comfort and stuff like that by being around Giamatti and Tully's characters, and kind of giving that motherly love that
Yeah.
she likes to do while going through a grieving process. So that's why this movie's so great, is because those little bitty storylines
Hmm.
impact so much and get you as a viewer.
Yeah, and you see their growth by the end of the movie because Divine Joy Randolph's character, she's still grieving her son, but
Hmm.
she's coming a little bit to the other side
Hmm.
by the end of the movie because there's new life that is going to be birthed with her sister. And if it's a boy, like her son, I believe it was Curtis was her son's name,
Yep.
that's going to be the middle name for the
Hmm.
kid. So it's one of those, you don't see her smile at all until she's finally with her sister, which
Hmm.
is something she needed and something she was avoiding because she felt like she had to be in her grief alone at the school. Paul Giamatti gets over, like, there's more to life than just being at Barton, because
Hmm.
Barton was the only chance that he felt like he had after the situation at Harvard. Now he's going to go off. Maybe he'll write that book. Was it like Egypt, or look at ancient civilizations, which is what he's specializes in.
Right.
Uh, he's going to go off and travel and maybe write that book. You have that exciting adventure for him. For Mr. Tully, he finally had one person stick up for him, one person actually show him that he's important. And
Hmm.
it's the teacher that he hated.
Right.
Fortunately, father's in a mental hospital. Mother is not physically there anymore. Stepfather makes sure that he's known as a stepfather and not father at the end of the movie. So each person had to get over something, and they
Hmm.
got over it by the end of the movie.
Yeah, and you can tell too, kind of even alluding to more why the mom is terrible, is because the only reason she's aggravated and wants to send him to military school, because he's creating problems that she pushed away, and now she has
Mm-hmm.
to deal with it again, and she doesn't want
Yeah.
to. So she just is trying to keep pushing everyone out of her life so she can move on and be horrible. I figured that as soon as he walked in there and she was saying all that stuff, and she was just like, he can't do this, he can't do that, and Paul Giamatti was like, you don't know your son,
Yeah.
obviously. You don't. He could, because once he's dead, I don't give a shit. And I was like, here we go.
You're
Uh,
right.
and he basically just, and because he was tired of it, he was just basically over it. He was over it at this point because they all kind of grew up. He finally went out and did the social thing. He finally went to Boston. He finally lived for the first
Mm-hmm.
time, actually living for the first time in a while, and with someone that he went along with, and not just because he had to be around, but it's just, and Divine's character kind of pushed him. It's like, you need to live. That's what she kind of
Yeah.
was telling him throughout the whole movie. It's kind of like, you need to let off these kids and you need to live, and without
Right.
saying it. And he finally was like, all right. And then she met him at when he was packing his things up, and she was like, finally, you're going to live. You're finally doing what you can actually do, than being stuck in, basically, they were kind of all stuck in their own mental prisons, and the school
Yeah.
represented that, the setting and stuff like that. So just hats off to the writers, Alexander Payne, the editors, the cast, of pulling off something's put together brilliantly.
as I like to do, is looking at quotes in the movie
Hmm.
because he is focused on ancient civilizations. They're at a museum in Boston, which even to Mr. Tully's like, why are we at a museum? This is boring. And then they see one of the vases has a lewd image
Yeah.
on it. You get the quote goes, there's nothing new in human experience, Mr. Tully. Each generation thinks it's invented debauchery or suffering or rebellion, but man's every impulse and appetite, from the disgusting to the sublime, is on display right here all around you. Before you dismiss something as boring or irrelevant, remember, if you truly want to understand the present or yourself, you must begin in the past. You see, history is not simply the study of the past, it is the explanation of the present.
Hmm.
That performance, too, and that line, I feel like that's going to be the one that they show when it's
Yeah.
Oscar night. They always show a scene. It's probably going to be that one.
Yeah. He can't. They can't really show the speech to the parents. So
No.
they can't really show that. Or when he basically walks out and after he got fired and calls the headmaster, cancer penis or the cancer
Hmm.
of the penis or something like that.
Although
Uh,
Oscars, if you do that,
yeah.
I like forever in my respect.
I mean, you're past safe harbor hours, so technically you can do it, but it's on network television instead of cable television. So I think there's some other FCC rules about that. But what did I get minor in broadcasting for? So, but yeah, so at the end of it, yeah, that was a really cool quote. He said, obviously, I liked the whole back and forth when they were in the liquor store, and he
Hmm.
was basically telling a story on why he hates that guy, and
Hmm.
and he was kind of going through, and then he was like, so you went to him and was like, yeah, but this happened. And he goes, but then, and then we got kicked out because they fought. He goes, no, I punched him in the face. I punched him, and just the way that was paced and the way it was
Yeah.
delivered, instead of him just doing the big diatribe where
Right.
he stole
Right.
my
Right.
paper, so I punched him in the face to kick me out. But the way it was kind of spread out and
Hmm.
done as they're and it's shot really well of how they're like pacing around looking for something because he doesn't know what he wants.
Hmm.
He just saw the asshole that basically ruined his life to him. They thinks like and blames for all of his for where he is in life, even though and all that. So he's like looking for liquor, obviously, but he's also telling the story. But he's still got that in his head. So he's basically like he's looking for something, but he's so disheveled because of the interaction he just had, and that's why also he kind of like paced out his story, meeting his nemesis basically to having that conversation. How it's paced out stuff was just another layer of this movie that's just really good.
Another scene that just came to my mind was the cherry dessert
Oh yeah,
scene. That was because they weren't going to let Mr. Tully have the cherry dessert because it had alcohol in it, but the alcohol gets burned off. Typically now they allow anyone to eat
right.
those desserts because the alcohol gets burned off in it, but the waitress was being very anal about it, and so they were like, "Okay, can you get us the cherries?" And they go and they burn it they poured some Jim Beam in it, burn
Yeah,
it outside on top of the cars to
yeah.
have, I think, what was it called? Cherry flambe or something like that.
No, I've like cherry surprise came to mind, but it wasn't. It was much more
Yeah.
French
Yeah,
term.
some French term.
Yeah, but it reminds me of the stand up bit where this comedian's talking about going to Crackle Barrel and they don't have omelets, and he was just like, she goes, "You don't have omelets?" Like, no, we don't got omelets. He's like, "You got eggs? Yeah, we got eggs. You got ham? Yeah, we got ham. You got salt? Yeah, we got salt. You got pepper? Yeah, you got pepper." It's like you have the ingredients, just give it to us. Fine, fine, I'll make it
Right.
myself. It just reminded me of that because you were being just kind of, being an asshole. Kind of the theme of the
Right.
onions
The
and
theme of
assholes.
this movie, onions and assholes.
Yeah. I think they
That
picked the
was the
right title
working
with the
title for this
holdovers instead
movie.
of onions and assholes, but it was a working title. It's probably what before it got greenlit,
Yeah.
what the project was called was onions and assholes.
Well, anyways, Josh, any final thoughts on this movie and what you're looking forward to with this movie on Oscar night?
This is a really comforting movie at the end of the day. It's something that I would recommend to someone that, you know, needs to, kind of needs to take that next step, and it is an encouraging thing. It's a great character piece. All that being said, if you're into, shoot, shoot, bang, bang, and the fast paced stuff, It's not, unfortunately, this movie is not for everyone. I know exactly the type of people that will watch this and be like, I don't get it, it's boring. It's a thoughtful movie with great characters, great performances, very well made, directing, editing, all that, and even the cinematography of the screenplay, which was very well, like you alluded to with that the little small monologue that he did, and him, and totally because of all of his hijinks and because he's forced to it, it breaks all of them. They kind of grew together in a 2 week span, and I really like the growth that these characters made. And it wasn't just like a jump out of a, there's some holes to it of like him being a drunkard, and they really don't kind of realize it. Like, man, and at the end, he took that shot of the really expensive stuff. I forget when he got that as a present or something like that, and he swished it around his mouth and spit it out. But a lot of people used to do that back in the day, so it wasn't like him just saying, "Oh, I'm done drinking." That's just what people used to do sometimes, to just swish around the alcohol for teeth cleaning purposes. I don't remember. I just remember they used to do that back in the day. But overall, this was a really good movie. I understand why it's getting all the praise that it's getting. You really haven't heard anyone say it's bad, but these are all the people that love movies. And so but yeah, this is a great character piece, and I couldn't recommend it more.
On a 1 to 10 scale, is it winning Best Picture?
No, I think Oppenheimer's probably going to win it without me seeing it, but it's just
But give the chances on 1 to 10.
6.5, 7, around that
Okay.
range. Like, it's still going to be probably top 3, 4 in voting, but it's Oppenheimer's year. I just don't see anybody beating it. I mean, Barbie was solid, but there's just something different about that movie and how it was made and done.
I think this is dark horse. I think this is a
Oh
dark
yeah,
horse for Best Picture. It's a dark horse for Paul Giamatti, and I wouldn't be surprised if it wins. I'd give it a 7 as well.
Yeah, this wins, I'll be like, yeah, I get why. But it's also one of those movies where you watched Oppenheimer and then on Barbie, and you watch this, and you can see why some people are like, that one. I'm like, yeah, it won. This is like this is like what you would show to like help like screenwriters and actors and stuff. Like, this is a Broadway play, but they just put the screen. It even going. This thing's gonna probably be on Broadway because it's a very small cast. You don't really need a whole lot of set pieces, really and truly. You just flip around some boards, boom, you're in Boston. Like, you don't have to do that, but this is the most less is more amazing movie.
That's Josh. I've been sold. This is Off the Wall. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Better than Lift.